What's happening, Nerd Squad, and welcome back. I'm your host, Taylor McWaters, and we're here with another part 3. A part 3, guys, look at this. There are so many alternate versions to the Man of Steel and many more to still break down. So grab a soda, plug your phone in, let's get counting. Kicking off the list at number 10, Krypto the Superdog. This good boy was actually the test pilot for the ship that carried baby Kal-El to Earth. He made his first appearance in Adventure Comics issue 210. Now, I know that he's not a super person, so I wanted to start this list off with him because animals are family. I'll argue that all day. Now, he wasn't supposed to be a recurring character, but he's a cute little dog. Who doesn't want to see him come back, right? So when Jor-El was testing this rocket, he strapped Krypto in for the ride, but the rocket was hit off course and it drifted into space for years. I can't imagine what that feels like in dog years. He's probably so bored. No kibbles and or bits. No kibbles or bits. He was so orbits. No kibbles or bits. Wow, we're writing jokes on the spot. This is crazy. Now, eventually that ship did land on Earth when Clark was a teenager. It's always fun getting a dog in your teen years, even if it's a dog from a doomed planet. That works too. His abilities were also super. They were just a little weaker because, he's a Labrador retriever. Obviously. Number 9, SuperDemon. Coming in hot from Earth 13, pun intended, SuperDemon, aka Etrigan, came from the cursed planet of Camelot and crash landed to Earth. Now, of course, there was a magical version of Earth, because fun. Every day on Earth 13 has 13 hours and 13 months. Sounds honestly pretty unlucky, more than anything. His League of Shadows was a pretty stellar crew. We have Hellblazer, Anataz, Witchboy, Swamp Man, Fate, Ragman, Deadman, and Enchantress. Merlin, the magician, bound the demon to a guy named Jason Blood, who naturally was an expert in demonology. His last name's Blood. In Batman Superman issue 20, the duo have to face off against the demon Prince of Hell. Now, of course, accompanied by his super vampires. You gotta start part 3 off on a demonic note as well. Feels right. Number 8, Superman Red and Blue. This amazing story comes from issue 162 of Superman. It was an imaginary tale, so it was a one-off, but in it we see this Superman stressed out. His super duties were starting to pile up. He couldn't be everywhere at once, so he pulled a Santa Claus 2. The guy tried to enhance his intelligence with a machine, but ended up splitting himself into 2 parts. Now there's a red twin and a blue twin. They were the dream team. Together they created something called New Krypton. They enlarged Kandor on its surface, and they created a new underwater world for the citizens of Atlantis. So not only was the livelihood of Earth's population also increasing, but the love triangle that was happening in Superman's comics was also fixed. Super Blue asked Lana to marry him, while Super Red proposed to Lois. Lucy Lane even ends up with Jimmy Olsen. Now we have 3 weddings in 1. What a win. The issue ends asking readers which couple they think is happier. So what do you think? Comment down below. Just comment red or blue, it'll confuse everybody who's looking. And before we continue, if you want to just give this video a thumbs up as well, that would be pretty helpful. All you have to do is just do a little tap, a little, that's it, and then we all go home smiling. Isn't that wonderful? You're the best. Thank you so much for watching. Now back to some crazy alternate Superman. Number 7, Eradicator. Created by writer Roger Stern and first appearing in Action Comics Annual 2, the Eradicator was this Kryptonian artifact over 200,000 years old. This dying alien race created these devices in order to preserve their culture. It's kind of like when we sent that spacecraft out and had old music on. They're like, hey, whoever finds this is our culture. A group of aliens arrived to Krypton. A militarist faction led by Chem-El killed them and then corrupted one of these devices to preserve his idea of Kryptonian culture. The Eradicator would simply eradicate alien influences after this point. He was a weapon that became sentient. That sounds bad already, but when you add in the fact that the Eradicator has most of Superman's powers, it gets even worse. The sentient Superman has these amazing abilities: super strength, speed, heat vision, flight, the whole package. Plus, he was originally a program from Krypton, so his history game is on point. He can also manipulate energy. He can absorb, convert, and then release energy from his hands or his eyes. So naturally, he has to wear a visor because his eyes are sensitive. It's a badass visor. It's not like a Dairy Queen, it's a good one. Number 6, Kal. What if Krypton was destroyed much sooner than it really was? What if Kal-El was sent to Earth during, say the medieval ages? Superman Kal was written by Dave Gibbons, released in 1995, and in this reality, Kal-El became a blacksmith after crash landing. A friend saw his strength and was like, oh, you should for sure be a blacksmith. You can definitely make swords, with your hands. Go and do that right now. Personally, I would have suggested jousting, but blacksmiths are still cool. They're fine. He met Lois in this reality as well, and in this case she was Lady Lois, daughter of Baron Luthor. Uh-oh. So Kal's ship was found by Baron Luthor, and his first idea was to make a suit of armor out of the metal, like medieval knight's armor. So he got Kal-El the blacksmith to do so, but the bargain was that Kal-El can take Lady Lois's hand in marriage. So they get married, but after the ceremony, Luthor's like, oh, new rule, you actually can't sleep with somebody until after their wedding night. Sorry. So Kal was upset that night. He slept alone. He was crying into his pillows, listening to Careless Whisper, and then come morning time, he heard that Luthor had actually killed Lady Lois. No more wife. He had a wife for like 6 hours and then no more wife. Evil. Putting the evil in medieval, I see. So Kal grabbed his sword after, making it with his hands or whatever, marched up to Luthor's castle and fought him naked. Yeah, Luthor tried to burn him with oil, but he's the Man of Steel, so his clothes just got burnt. So now he was naked and fighting. How amazing is that? Luthor ends up stabbing Kal with the kryptonite gemstone, and Kal stabs Luthor with his sword. Everybody wins. Or rather, everybody loses in this case. Number 5, Black Zero. We look now at an alternate version of Superboy from a hyper time stream where the Superman had not returned, and instead the clone kept aging. Now he made his first appearance in the Kingdom issue 2. He stuck around so his Kryptonian powers were fully developed on top of the telekinesis that he already had. Kon-El began his days as a hero, but people looked up to him obviously for a bit until, he started going crazy and then nobody wanted to follow him. He was much different than the other guy, the normal Superman. He couldn't save the day as flawlessly, and eventually he just changed his name to Black Zero, which is a comforting nickname. So he had no association with Superman at this time, and then in Superboy Volume 4, Issue 64, it was a full-on Superman war. That rhymed, nice. Black Zero created a bunch of clones after that and was under the impression that humans would never leave a clone alone, so his solution was to just conquer his Earth. Metron of the New Gods soon contacted him and offered him more worlds via Hypertime, worlds that also had this clone mentality problem, whatever. Now these Superboys that he fought would lose and then end up in a stasis chamber. He was killing it. Now eventually he was beaten by the combined powers of other versions, with main continuity Superboy leading the pack. Number 4, Superman Earth 31. In Batman The Dark Knight Returns issue 3, we meet Earth 31's dark take on the Man of Steel. This comic inspired Batman vs Superman Dawn of Justice because when Batman comes back to fight crime, he goes a little too hard with it. His methods are definitely messy. So Superman is sent in to stop the Caped Crusader. Now this Superman is a little less happy-go-lucky like some others on this list. Him and Lois have gotten divorced. He works for the corrupt US government, so they have a say on who he fights now and what he does. Some of Frank Miller's finest work, honestly, if you ask me. This is the same story that introduced Carrie Kelly as the new Robin. A must-read. A little better than Dawn of Justice, just a little better. Number 3, Centaur Superman. Superman Wonder Woman Whom Gods Destroy was an Elseworlds imprint released in 1996. It's a 4-part miniseries that shows us a world where the Germans won World War II, and Bruce Wayne is also the president, and Harpy's working for Cersei kidnapped Lana Lang. What a time. So Clark and Lois fly over to Europe to find her. They book a flight, but during that flight, Harpies come back and the plane goes down over Germany. The goddess Athena turns Lois into Wonder Woman, and then she goes toe-to-toe with Diana, Wonder Woman, who at the time was working on the German side. And then as for Clark, after the crash, Cersei turns him into this crazy centaur. At this point, it has Shrek 2 vibes all over. It's just this mighty stallion on top of a hill with all the ladies below, centaur ladies below, just racing to greet him. They're like, who is this handsome man? And then they all just raid towns and party with their hooves and their good times. Honestly, it's a great time for Superman here, but for everybody else, it's just a nightmare. Number 2, Supergirl. Making her first appearance as Lois Lane's Superwoman back in 1943 in Action Comics issue 60, Supergirl has appeared in DC Comics for the first time a few times, actually quite longer than you think. The first time was a dream sequence. DC was testing the waters out at this point. So Lois ends up getting hit by a car. She's hospitalized, and then she dreams that she received a blood transfusion from Superman and in turn got his powers as well. A pretty fun dream considering you were slammed by a car moments earlier. Could be worse. So in this dream, she was Superwoman and had her own costume, the whole thing, and then in Superman issue 123, Jimmy Olsen uses a magical relic to wish Supergirl into existence. DC was trying out the Supergirl idea in a way that wouldn't impact the comics. So in that same comic, she sacrificed her life saving Clark, and then Jimmy wished her out of existence to fix the timeline. Instead of wishing to, I don't know, heal her. There's an idea. Number 1, Super Sister. In Superboy issue 78, Superboy straight up finds a space woman entering Earth's atmosphere in like a UFO, and then he makes fun of her driving in his head. That's his first thought. Now, unfortunately, that space woman was Charla, a telepath, and she's now upset at his inner monologue before she even gets out of her craft. But then out loud, he doesn't defend himself either. Like, he actually makes it worse. He's like, oh, if women run your world the way you run spaceships, I'm glad I don't live there. Like, dude, he's so angry for literally no reason. So Charla turns him into a girl and then leaves. So he starts going by Claire Kent at this point, and then he hangs out with Lana as Clark's sister. That's what he tells everyone. Now the dialogue alone, I mean, this is an old comic, mind you, but Superboy is like, oh man, I have to do girl stuff like cook? He's watching the boys play baseball outside. He's like, oh, if only I could do baseball instead. Damn 1960s stereotypes. He gets changed back at the end after he learns his lesson or whatever, but again, it turns out to be a dream. It's like the writers were too afraid to even go that far in these early comics. What a mess. Thank you so much for sticking around to the end of this part 3. You all rock, but before you go, drop us some suggestions down below for future lists, and we'll try and get around to all of them. That's why we're here. I've been your host, Taylor McWaters. Keep being you, and we'll see you next time on Top 10 Nerd. Peace.